Greetings people, this is Keith Modesto doing my Let's Play Minecraft series using the Forge mod loader and the Direwolf 20 mod pack. This is Minecraft 1.6.4 and I think it's the oh, I forget. I'm trying to remember which build of the Direwolf 20 pack it is. It's the build for 1.6.4 of course, but I think it's like on 20 or 21. Of the Direwolf pack. Anyway, okay. So what's on the agenda today? The last episode, I worked out a little. I worked out what the switch configurations would need to be. So I've got this. This is a little mock-up, a little like model, so to speak, of the rail line that I've already set up for connecting this part of the base with the tower part of the base. And it runs through a hallway. I've been calling it the Great Hallway, which is actually right here, right? So I've got the rail line running all the way through the hallway. Over there is, and up the stairs a little bit is the original part of the base. And over there is the end of the line, and that's at the bottom of the tower, you know, which is right here. I should note while I'm down here that there's some kind of little problem going on with my steam dynamos and the coal and the charcoal that's being pulled out of this deep storage unit. I've had the coal that's being pulled out of the deep storage unit or charcoal by an item duct. There's a servo in there. Oh, and there's stuffed items. Yes. So every once in a while, I noticed charcoal is being spit out of the item ducts, out of, you know, the input valves, I guess. And I think what's happening is, you know, right now these are off. I have them off, but what, you know, because this thing is just about full. That's why I had it on, because this battery, this energy cell was drained. So so this was on, and all these steam dynamos are running. They were running fine, right? They're not running now, of course, because this lever's off. Anyway, so I think what was happening is, see, when the steam dynamos are running, they burn one piece of charcoal. This flame symbol is going down, and this has 64 in it because charcoal is being, you know, pulled out and put in by the item ducts. Anyway, so say this has got 64 charcoal in it, the flame's going down, it gets all the way down to the bottom, the steam dynamo grabs another piece of charcoal from its buffer and starts burning it, so now there's 63. So so a piece of charcoal starts going down to there. Actually, maybe there is a solution, what it would do was so they have stack size set to 64, which I did originally because is that the default? Either it's the default or I set it to 64 because I wanted, of course, to fill them up all really quickly. But anyway, so it pulls 64 out to put into the buffer, but of course it's not going to hold 64 because it already has 63. So one goes in, and the other 63 pieces of charcoal are still in the item duct, and say if this were just a normal chest, what would happen is, I believe, the charcoal would just go right back in the chest. It would just backtrack and go back in. But it can't do that because this is an output. I think, you know, the deep storage unit, you can put in on any side except for the side where charcoal is being pulled out. So it can't put it back in. I think that's what's happening. And so since it can't put the charcoal back in, it just falls out. And I think I just thought of the solution to that, which might be just to set this to stack size. I wonder if it rolls over. No. If I increase the stack size that it's pulling out at a time. Actually, if I do the middle button, will it go down more than that? No. Anyway, so if I increase the stack size down to 1, so it's only pulling out one piece of charcoal at a time, then maybe that'll stop happening. I will test that out later, though, because I'll run out of time for this episode if I keep on doing this. But, you know, when the charcoal would fall out, it would be sitting there kind of trapped like in all these cables, and I'd try to get to it, and it would it wouldn't get into my inventory. So I dug out this trench so if the charcoal would like fall in the trench and I could get down in there and get to it. And I was thinking maybe I could use vacuum hoppers or something to pull any charcoal that falls out, and then send it back. The other thought I had was, if I put an item duct right here, it would connect like in a little loop. But I'm thinking it would just continuously go around and around. Pull 64 out, put it back in, pull 64. I don't know if that would happen, but if it did, it would be crummy. So I hadn't tried it yet. I guess I could have tested that somehow. Anyway, so I might have just fixed it. I will test whether that fixed it or not. Anyway, so what I was saying, I've got this little mock-up of the rail line I've got, right? This is the main line right here from the original part of the base to the tower. And then what I want to do is add another little diverging line, and this is just so I can stop in the middle of that hallway, right? I've got all that machinery, those engines I was just showing, the problem I'm having with. I've got and the energy storage cells right here, which are running those machines over here, which is just a setup for processing ores that I get from mining a quarry. I've got the rock crusher, which has been a disappointment. I've run 18 stacks of gravel through this thing and I didn't get any diamonds. I got a whole bunch of sand, 1 gold nugget, and no diamonds. I was thinking maybe I would get maybe 1 or 2 diamonds from 9 full stacks of gravel, but none from 18 stacks of gravel. That's not very good. Oh well. Anyway, as I was saying, and let's see, and also these machines are running the various farms and stuff I've got up on the surface. Anyway, so I've got all this stuff kind of in the middle of this hallway, and there's going to be more stuff. I've also got the coal coke and the blast furnace, and I'm having some problems with this one coal coke oven. I already showed that. It's still happening. I'm not sure. There's some kind of weird bugginess thing going on. It's really annoying. Anyway, so it would be a good thing to be able to just stop in the middle of this hallway so I could do stuff, Of course, I have this ladder, but, if I'm going to the trouble of making this rail line, it'd be nice to be able to stop in the middle of that hallway. So I'm thinking of so this is a model of that, right? And for this to work, for this to really be useful, what I need to be able to do is to be able to go from any point on any node, you might call them, any point where you might start to any point where you might stop. And so I need to, and for that to work, for you to be able to do that, I need to have switches. So I figured out 3 switches is enough to do that. And this is the setup for the switches. So that's all worked out. And I figured out, I labeled the switches A, B, and C, and I made up a little chart, which switches need to be closed, which need to be open for the cart to be able to make its way from one point to another point with the push of the button, right? So right now I push this button and that'll go. And I have 2 carts still. Is that a bug? Is that cart being duplicated? I think it is. I think that cart's being duplicated. How amusing. I'll have to test that to make sure that's what's happening. But I know, as of now, there's only 1 cart. I've got 3 carts in my inventory. I'm going to log off and log on again, of course, after this episode is over, and I will find out if there's a duplication bug with carts. Anyway, okay, so that's fine. Okay, so but the next thing is I need to be able to set these switches remotely, right? Right now I'm switching them manually for this little model. But if I duplicate this switch setup with the actual rail line, I can't, it'd be silly to walk. These switches are pretty much only going to be in the middle of the hallway. That's where all the going, switching over from one line to the other is going to be happening is in the middle of the hallway. So if I'm over here, say in the original part of the base, I don't want to have to, walk all the way down to the switches and make sure they're set correctly so that when I push this button, the cart will take me over here. That would be incredibly stupid. So I need to be able to do it remotely. And the thing to do that with, I could either use cables of any kind that takes a redstone signal, because these switch on redstone signals from, right now it's from a lever, but it could be from anything, right? any cable that I can use to propagate a redstone signal I could use, but that's a lot of cabling to wire. So I'm thinking instead of using wireless redstone receivers. Now the other thing is I need to have some kind of logic in place. I need to be able to set all the switches from here, and it needs to be able to ignore any signals that are coming from over here about what the switches should be, because if I'm over here and I want to go over here, I want to be able to set all the switches from here. Right, I need to be able to set the switches from here and here and here, and if I were using wireless redstone receivers, say, and I just had, say, I could have three buttons or levers over here that would say, for switch A, B, and C. I have these labeled A, B, and C, and say I had three levers stuck right here, right, with three transmitters, and each switch had a receiver, and I could say switch A to on, B to off, and C to off or something, and that would make me go to a particular spot, right? And that would be fine if there was only these transmitters, but if I were over, because they would be getting signals on or off from these from these transmitters. But if to get from, this isn't actually the case, actually from here to get from here to over there, all the switches could be open. It actually doesn't matter what switch C is, but A and B need to be open, right? So I say open, 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 and then they'd all be open, right? And I'd get to and I would get from here to here. But if over here, say before then, a couple of days before I'd been over here and I wanted to go to the middle of the hallway, I would have set the switches to open, closed, open. So they'd all be open except for B would be closed, and that would get me from here to here, right? And that's what the transmitters over here were saying. And I'd set them, gone over here, then done my stuff, then ended up over here and said, oh, I need to go from here to the tower. And I made it so, and I pulled the switch, my levers. I had three levers over here, and I set them to open, open, open. You think, okay, so now the switches are all open, but they wouldn't be, because the transmitter over here would still be telling it to be open, closed, open. So this one would still be closed. Now in this case, that actually wouldn't make any difference because of the way switches work. But the point is with this kind, I could actually go through and try to figure out, like in that case, would it not matter? But it would matter. It would matter for this. This one, I believe. Anyway, so just to make sure that no weird things happen, it would be better if I could set things up so I could say, set the switches and then actually like send a pulse and say, go ahead and change the switches now, depending on only what these levers say, and ignore what these other levers say. That would mean having a separate frequencies, not just for each switch, but also for each location. So that would be like 3 times 3, that's 9 different frequencies just to set the switches, which is kind of excessive, but might be necessary to do. And then another frequency, actually, and then 3 more frequencies, one for each location, saying, go ahead and do it right now. And and don't even bother looking at the other frequencies. That would mean having some kind of control unit, some central control unit that would actually be setting the cable, would actually be setting the switches. Anyway, so thinking about all this, I thought there's 2 different, at least right off the top of my head, two different blocks I could use as control units. One would be the computer from Computercraft, and the other is the programmable redneck controller from Mind Factory Reloaded. So since I've used computers before from Computercraft, I thought it might be amusing to try the programmable redneck controller instead. So that's what we're going to do. That all took too long to explain, and I'm going to run out of time. Anyway, so first I have to make the programmable redneck controller. Okay, so first we need the housing. There's the housing for the programmable redneck controller. That's what this is, and this is the recipe. We got some plastic sheets, iron, glass, and some redstone. Okay, and then right here we have the recipe for the actual controller. minus the housing which I'm going to place in right now. So we have a diamond, and some redstone and lapis and some plastic sheets. So here is the programmable RedNet controller. And to use this, I also need some cables, RedNet cables. I already had RedNet cables because I used them for a couple of things. You can use them just to transmit redstone, so you don't have to have the programmable RedNet controller to use the cables. Okay, and then I cleared away this little spot because, kind of similarly to my setup here, to test things out, I want to test out and get that program, so to speak, for this controller setup before I actually try. And then after I have things working, I will actually integrate it into this and see if it all works. And then I will actually build it downstairs. Okay, so I'm going to put the controller right here, and then I have some cable right here, and these are going to go to I guess that'll work. To 3 lamps, and these 3 lamps are going to be modeling. I wonder. I'll check that in a minute. Are going to be modeling the switches, right? I have 3 switches, so I'm going to have 3 lamps. White, blue, and yellow. Okay, and then over here we'll have some levers. So I guess we'll go up like this, and eventually I'm going to replace these levers with some buttons. But for now, just to begin the testing of things, I'm going to have levers, right? And I believe this is not going to do anything yet. Now, if I replace this with just a cable, when I switched any one of these, all 3 of those, anytime I switch any of those levers on, all the lamps would turn on, because right now this has 16 frequencies for all the colors. Like, it's kind of like bundled cable from Red Power 2. So right now, by default, all 3 of them are white, and all 3 of these are white. And if I grab my wrench, oh, we do have my wrench. Well, actually, I don't know if this wrench works. I hit the wrong button. I'm always doing that. Okay, does this wrench do it? No. Oh, I mean, it does do it, but it's not doing what I wanted. Oops, I lost my center connection. I lost my lever, didn't I? Did it fall? Where did it go? Try that again. I have to make sure I hit the right spot. Okay, I can switch I have to hit the band. Oh, and what's that? Oh well. Okay, so, switch that to orange and switch that to magenta. Then I can switch. I need to be able to get down there. Switch that one to orange and that one to magenta. Alright, so now I can switch each lamp on or off individually, right? Now, that's pretty much the most you can do as far as different, having different behavior, I guess. I could make 2 of these white, or have 2 of these white or whatever, so I could have like one lever control 2 lamps. But I can't like do an and, like say I wanted to make it so that both of these levers had to be on for this one lamp to turn on. Otherwise, if only one were on, then it would be off, or the other were off, the other wouldn't be on. You can't do that. Not with just cable. But you can do that with the RedNet controller and a whole bunch of other things. The programmable RedNet controller. Okay. So here, if I right-click, is the interface. It's pretty complicated. Let's see how I'm not going to have time to really play around with this on camera, right? So I'm going to be fooling around with this off camera, and when I have it doing what I want it to do, I will come back. Well, I guess might as well be the next episode because I'm almost out of time. But I guess I could show at least a one little thing. For instance, say I wanted it so all 3 of these levers have to be on before this one white lamp would turn on. Right now, it's not. These things aren't doing anything because the cables aren't connected. They're interrupted by this controller. So we have to like tell the controller what we want it to do. So we want an and we want it a 4 input. You can here I want, that's odd, 3 input and, because we have 3 inputs. And so we have input, 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 and actually I need to look, what direction is this? I guess that is west. So, and we change this to west. Whoops. Up, back, forward. Oh, they changed it. Left. It used to be. I guess they must have updated it or something. Okay, so I guess that would be left. Up, back, forward, left. We'll find out in a moment. Okay, we already have white. We want orange and magenta. And then the output is going to be on the right. And it's going to be on white. Okay. So what that should do is, let's flip one switch, nothing happens. Any one of these, nothing should happen. Any two of them, nothing should happen. And there, but all three on? I kind of wish there was some kind of way for you to be able to tell that a lever's on or off. Okay, so up is off by default. There's my timer, which means I need to wrap the episode up. Anyway, so see the way it is right now. So all three are off. One is on, but that doesn't do any good. Two on, that doesn't do any good. Three on, then it is on, because an adder, and the way an adder circuit works is all the inputs. Since this is a three input adder, it has to have all three inputs. Anyway, so all three inputs have to be on before the output is on. Otherwise, the output is off. Anyway, so and there's this whole list of all kinds of other little logical circuits that you can make right in here, and there's actually, so this is just one circuit, and then you have 6 pages where you can put in other circuits. And I watched a little video tutorial, and it said that all 3 pages are operating at once, which is a little odd to think about. So, which is why I need to play around with this. For instance, I want to know, I was thinking a way of doing what I wanted to do using variables and stuff, because you can have variables. So you can add constants by default. This was null. You could also have, see, there's a variable, null. I guess those are the only choices for the adder. Anyway, but I'm not sure exactly how this thing works. Like, if I set it to a variable, is there some kind of delay? Does it do one page and then the next page and then the next page, or does it really do it all at once? And how would that really work? So I need to play around with it, and I will do that off camera. And the next episode, I will show what I've come up with, and if I've got, and when I've got a working program, right? And then I guess in that episode we'll integrate it into this. The thing I'm thinking of right now, I have it with levers, right? Because that, and I guess I also will set up buttons. What I'm thinking of is that, say I'm in the original part of the base, and I want to go to the tower. What I want to do, let's see, there's only 2 possible locations. This is just, at least right now, it's just, I'm either going to go to the tower, or I'm going to stop in the middle of the hall, right? And also here I'm either going to go to the tower or the original part of the base. Whatever location I'm at, whatever starting point I'm at, I've only got 2 possible destinations. So right now, the way it is, upstairs, the way I've only got only one possible destination, right? You got the beginning of the line and the end of the line, and to get there, all I have to do is press the button, and it pulses the booster track, and I get going, and I go to the other end, right? Push the button, go to the other end. Well, if I got 2 possible destinations, at least from the point of the end user, a simple way to do it would be one button takes me to the other end, one end of the line, right? And the other button takes me to the middle of the hall. Right, I'm over here, I push one button, I go to the original part of the base, I push the other button, and I go to the tower, right? So I could just have 2 buttons. Now, the way this is right now, this button actually will set off the booster track, because it just makes a redstone signal right next to the booster track, and that energizes the booster track. If I have 2 buttons, then I can't quite do it that way, and and the buttons actually need to send signals to the central control unit to set the switches, and then power the booster track. So I'm gonna have to have the buttons like both buttons need to be need to be over a little bit, so they don't directly affect the booster track. They actually need to just send a signal through wireless redstone transmitters, and then also send a signal like through a cable or something to the to the booster track to actually get the card going. Anyway, so but that's just a little wrinkle. The essential thing is that I'm gonna have two possible signals. One is a signal. Well, what am I saying? Anyway, so what I'm saying is I'm going to end up having 6 buttons, 2 at each point, right? So to simulate that, instead of having 3 levers, I'm going to have 6 buttons. And so I need to work out a way that these 6 buttons will set all of the switches correctly. Now, if that's all there was to it, I don't think that would be very hard. But there's also the matter of that they need to set the switches even. The switches need to stay set while the buttons aren't pulsed, right? Levers are on or off, and if they're on, they stay on. Buttons, you push them, they send a pulse, and then they turn off. These switch motors, they stay in whatever state they're in, depending on what state the lever's doing. If I replace one of these with a... See, that's moving? I need to wrap up, but just to show this, if I replace that, I'm pretty sure this is correct. I'm going to find out, I guess. If I replace that lever with a button, I guess you can't use that kind of button on the ground. I thought this was a good button. I will get this button and use it. Maybe you can't put buttons on the ground like you can a lever. That could be. I will find out. No, you can't. Okay, so I need a piece of cobble. Come here, button. I think if I put the button there, it'll work. Yes. Okay, did you see that? So I pushed the button and it changed the state of the switch. But then the switch changed back again because the button turned off. Well, that's not going to work. When I switch this, when I pull the lever on a switch, it stays, and that's what I want. So I've got to use some kind of latch, I think, or variables or something, and that's what I got to work out which way works best. Right? And also I've got to be able to tell. The controller needs to know, hey, I just got a pulse from that location. That means the switches need to, and that pulse is telling me not only where the pulse came from, but where the person wants to go to. So I need to set the switches in a certain way. So that's 6 different possibilities. Yeah. Okay, I don't think that's too hard, but I'm going to figure that all off camera, set this thing up so it does that, and then in the next episode I will show what I've come up with, and then move this and I also need to do that with wireless transmitters, I think, unless I can make it all compact enough. Well, at least there has to be some wireless transmitters and stuff. Anyway, so I will integrate that into this setup and make sure it all works with the carts and everything, and that'll be the next episode. Alright, so we gotta wrap this up. I'm going way over. This has been Keith and Modesta playing Modern Minecraft, playing around with Railcraft. That's what all that stuff is. Or I guess I should go like that. It'll look odd. Where am I pointing? But today with RedNet from Mine Factory Reloaded. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day.